If you disappear and he forgets you, he was never looking for forever. But if your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did, you've just uncovered the truth. Real value doesn't chase. It's recognized in silence. Sometimes distance is the only mirror that reflects your true worth. There's a mystery in absence that presence cannot reveal. When a man sees you daily, hears your voice, enjoys your warmth, he might take it all and without truly tasting the meaning behind it. But when it's gone, when the laughter fades, the routine breaks, and the silence grows, something sacred happens. He begins to question. He begins to remember. He begins to realize. Because absence doesn't lie, it reveals. A man doesn't truly know the value of a rare gem until he's no longer holding it in his hand. You were never meant to prove your place in someone's life by always being available. Real connection isn't fed by constant presence, it's proven by how deeply someone feels your absence. The right man doesn't need to be begged. He doesn't need to be reminded of your worth. He simply needs space to hear his own heart beat differently when you're not around. That silence tells him everything. Men are wired to understand depth through words alone. They need time, reflection, contrast, and nothing contrasts presence like absence. Your absence becomes the test of quiet that reveals the truth. Was it convenience or connection? Was it habit or heart? If you're always there, he never asks these questions. But when you step back, the answers come forward. A woman of true worth doesn't chase to be chosen. She steps away so the man can choose freely. If he feels nothing, let him go. You were not made to convince, you were made to be realized. And the man who is truly yours won't need constant reminders. He'll remember you in silence. He'll feel the lack of your energy, your insight, your care. He will notice the difference between life with you and life without you. That realization is not forced, it's awakened. Absence sharpens focus. It cuts through noise. It removes illusion. A man who can't feel your absence was never connected to your presence. That truth might sting, but it sets you free. Because your goal was never to be a placeholder. You are the prize, the partner, the purpose, not the pursuit. If he can live without you and thrive, then step back fully and bless his way. Because someone else is being prepared to meet you in your value, not your availability. This is why distance is powerful. It resets the dynamic. It recenters your soul. It gives you room to see what's real, not based on words, but on energy return. When a man realizes what he had only after it's gone, that's when truth speaks loudest. Not all returns are meant to be welcome, but the ones that are come back with clarity, respect, and intention. Men need the space to miss you. They need the contrast of your silence. They need the ache of your absence to realize the beauty of your presence. If you stay too long in a space where you are undervalued, you train someone to treat your worth as ordinary. But when you leave and your light is gone, only then can he decide, was she an option or was she everything? You cannot convince someone to recognize what they're not yet mature enough to hold. But absence is not just an exit, it's a message. A woman who knows her value is never loud about it. She simply walks away and lets the silence do the explaining. And if he truly sees you, he'll return with eyes wide open and a soul finally ready to love. So don't fear pulling back. Don't fear the stillness. Let the man who's meant for you feel the full weight of your absence. Let him sit with what it means to no longer have you around. And if his heart is tied to yours, it will not stay silent for long. It will search. It will remember. It will return not because you chased, but because he finally saw. This is not about games. This is about gravity, the kind of gravity only the soul understands. The man who is meant for you will recognize your absence as a missing piece, not a momentary gap. And when that realization hits, it changes everything. Not just for him, but for you. Because now you know silence spoke the truth that presence couldn't. And that's when you become undeniable, not because you stayed, but because you had the strength to walk away and let the truth unfold. That is when you are no longer just a woman he dated. You become the woman he remembers, the one he couldn't replace, the one who made absence unforgettable. When you step away, you're not creating distance, you're creating revelation. Absence has a strange way of shining a light on what presence hides. A man may grow used to your words, your kindness, your energy, and begin to assume it's all guaranteed. But when it's gone, when your voice is no longer part of his day, when your love is no longer within reach, a decision forms in his soul. That silence becomes a mirror. It reflects what he overlooked and exposes what he truly valued. If he notices nothing, he never saw you. But if your absence awakens him, if it causes a stirring, a questioning, a missing, then your presence had purpose. Absence doesn't punish, it clarifies. It doesn't push away love, it purifies it. When you pull back, what remains is the truth. He either moves forward with blind eyes or he returns with vision. And that vision starts with the moment he no longer hears your name every day. A man who forgets you quickly was never attached to your soul, only to the convenience you offered. You may have been present in his life, pouring love, time, and peace into his space. But if you step away and your name fades like background noise, that was never love, it was routine. True value doesn't disappear when you do. It lingers, it latches to memory, to feeling, to impact. You can be gone and still felt, still missed, still remembered. But if your silence creates no ripple, then your presence was never deeply received. He saw your availability, not your essence. He enjoyed your light, but never looked into your fire. You cannot force someone to see what they are unwilling to look for. If you must constantly remind someone of your worth, they were never prepared to protect it. The man who's meant for you doesn't forget you. He finds you, even in your absence. A man who truly values a woman doesn't need her to repeat herself to be heard. He doesn't need daily reminders of her worth, her sacrifice, or her soul. When she's gone, whether for a day, a week, or a season, her absence weighs on his world like a shift in gravity. He feels the imbalance. He senses the change. And not because she made a scene, but because her silence carried weight. Her stillness spoke. The man who is truly connected to a woman doesn't treat her presence like background music he notices when the sound stops. And in that quiet, realization is born. He begins to trace the places she once filled. He misses her insights, her encouragement, the way she made the world feel warmer. That kind of absence cannot be ignored. It becomes a lesson, a conviction, a call to action. And the man who truly sees it changes. There's nothing more powerful than a woman who refuses to beg for her value to be seen. She doesn't fight to stay. She doesn't compete to be chosen. Instead, she steps back with grace and lets time do what talk never could. She lets her absence become the message. And in that silence, if he truly cared, he will feel it deeply. The absence will do what words couldn't prove, that she mattered, that she brought something irreplaceable. That love was never supposed to chase approval, but to be honored without demand. When a man sits alone with her silence, he either fills it with regret or relief. And either way, she wins, because truth revealed is always better than love faked. She knows her worth is not in how loud she fights to be seen, but in how quietly she walks away when she's not. Teaching someone to value you isn't done through effort, it's done through boundaries. And sometimes the most powerful boundary is absence. When you walk away, not in rage, but in quiet strength, you change the equation. You no longer measure love by how much you give, but by how much is missed when you're no longer there. You were never meant to convince someone to see you. Your energy, your light, your peace, those are gifts, not entitlements. When a man feels the absence of those things, he's forced to decide, did he love the real you or the comfort you provided? You stop training people to accept your presence as automatic when you allow your absence to speak. And the ones who are real, they'll feel it, they'll pause, they'll reflect, and they'll realize that your silence wasn't rejection, it was revelation. Men don't discover the depth of a woman's love through repetition, they discover it through reflection. It's not the repeated reminders that change them, it's the quiet space when those reminders are gone. That's when realization sinks in, when her laugh isn't heard, when her advice isn't available. When her joy no longer enters the room first, that's when her worth begins to echo. Men are wired to chase what is missed, not what is always present. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about allowing space for truth to breathe. A woman constantly present can become part of the background, even if her love is extraordinary. But the moment she steps back, the air shifts. He begins to question, to feel, to remember. And in that remembering, love either deepens or fades. But at least now it's real. When a woman steps away, she does more than create space, she creates contrast. In her presence, he saw comfort. In her absence, he sees clarity. Clarity about what she meant, about what she offered, about what he lost. There's a sacred tension in silence that reveals the truth better than any argument ever could. He begins to notice what the noise of everyday life had covered. The way she brought peace, the way her voice shifted the room, the way her presence made him feel grounded. And if he can't feel the shift when she's gone, he never truly saw her to begin with. Absence is not punishment, it's a sacred unveiling. It reveals what was real, what was imagined, and what was one-sided. And in that revelation, either love is rekindled or illusion is removed. You never need to shout your absence when your presence was powerful. The man who truly connected with your soul will hear you even in your silence. He will feel the stillness like a void. Not just because he misses company, but because he misses connection. Real connection leaves a fingerprint on the spirit, not just the routine. When you are gone, he will feel it in the way the day slows, in the way conversations feel shallow, in the way he suddenly realizes not every woman can offer what you gave so freely. That's when absence does its work. It doesn't just echo, it awakens. It stirs something deeper. And if it doesn't, you weren't heard, you were only heard of. That's when you know you didn't lose him. He never truly had you. A man who cannot feel your absence has no business leading your heart. If he doesn't notice when your light leaves the room, he was never present to begin with. True connection leaves an imprint, not a convenience. If you can go days, weeks, or months without the tug of your memory, then your soul was never part of his compass. It's not bitterness to say this, it's liberation. Because your heart was never designed to anchor to someone who only saw you when you stood in front of them. If your absence doesn't cause him to pause, then his presence was never deep enough to matter. Let him go not with anger, but with clarity. Someone else is out there who will notice your silence like a missing heartbeat. When you remove yourself from someone's life, what remains speaks volumes. Your absence clears the fog. It shows you who will chase illusion and who will seek truth. You may think you're walking away, but in reality, you're stepping into the spotlight of authenticity. If they come closer when you disappear, they were waiting for real love all along. If they drift, let them. You were not created to be tolerated, you were created to be treasured. Absence reveals this more clearly than presence ever could, because presence is easily ignored. But absence, it demands reflection. It requires honesty. It forces the other person to confront the truth of your value. And if they can't see it when you're gone, they were never looking when you were there. A woman who walks away doesn't vanish, she becomes undeniable. Her absence doesn't leave a gap, it leaves a message. Not a message of anger or revenge, but of self-awareness. She doesn't disappear to punish. She withdraws to preserve. When she leaves, the space she once filled becomes louder than any word she ever spoke. A man who truly saw her, who truly felt her spirit, will hear that silence in his soul. Not just in his mind, but in his heart. The room feels colder. The days feel longer. The noise of the world feels thinner without her presence. That's what happens when someone of substance walks away. They don't leave empty space, they leave lasting presence. Her absence becomes a reminder of what real love looked like when it stood in front of him. And if that doesn't move him, he was never meant to walk beside her. There's a strength in stepping back that no loud argument could ever match. Not being seen doesn't mean you are invisible. In fact, it's in the silence that your true value begins to glow. When a man no longer has your voice to lean on, your insight to guide him, your comfort to shield him, he either feels the loss or reveals his detachment. The absence becomes a lesson. Not for revenge, but for reality. You are not made lesser by distance, you are made clearer. Clarity doesn't always arrive with sound. Sometimes it arrives when everything goes still. That's when realization creeps in. That's when he begins to ask, did I truly see her? And if the answer is no, you gave him the chance to see, not by force, but by freedom. Your worth remains intact, even when unseen, especially when unseen. If he comes back with the same smile, but the same habits, your absence taught him nothing. But if he returns with changed tone, deeper words, and clearer intentions, then the silence did its work. Absence does not just separate bodies, it sharpens minds. If he truly missed you, he won't just say it, he'll show it. His heart will sound different. His presence will feel heavier in the best way, because real recognition changes behavior, not just emotions. Love, when awakened by absence, doesn't repeat old patterns. It elevates. It deepens. It grows roots where there were once only branches. That's how you know the return is real. You hear it in the tone. You feel it in the steps he takes toward you. Not just physically, but spiritually. And if the absence didn't change him, it changed you. Either way, evolution occurred. Absence is never the end, unless it reveals there was nothing real to begin with. Sometimes stepping back isn't about hoping he'll chase. It's about giving your heart room to breathe, to hear itself without noise, to rediscover its own rhythm. And when you do that, you don't become weaker, you become wiser. Not being present doesn't erase your impact, it magnifies it. The people meant to cherish you will feel the emptiness you leave behind, and it won't feel hollow, it will feel sacred. Because you brought more than company, you brought presence, wisdom, calm, fire. And when those are gone, only those with spirit will feel the absence in full color. And they will either return with deeper eyes or drift into the background they came from. Either way, you've made space for truth. And truth is what love lives on. Real love is not measured by how often you're seen, it's revealed by how deeply you're remembered. The ones who are meant for you don't move on from your absence as if you were a moment. They carry you in their spirit like a melody they can't forget. Your voice echoes even when your lips are silent. Your soul remains even when your feet are far away. That's how you know it wasn't attachment, it was alignment. A man who truly connected with you doesn't need to see your face every day to feel your value. He holds it. He guards it. And when the time is right, he returns not because he's lonely, but because he finally sees. Your absence awakened his clarity. Your silence cleared his vision. And your distance reintroduced you not as someone waiting, but as someone already whole.